Hello, everybody, and welcome to the first episode of the Daily Goblin Show. Nah, I'm just kidding. This episode is about goblins. Now, I was thinking about what I should make this episode about today, and for some inexplicable reason, the first thought that came to my mind was goblins. Now, I am a goblin enjoyer. You know, the history behind goblins, obviously, they're not real. I'm not an idiot. But like the mythology. European mythology, the goblins, and then eventually it evolved into what we have today. You know, tiny green men with pointy ears. They love gold. They love mining. They love, you know, their little daggers and little swords and stuff. That is a bona fide goblin, you know? And what I enjoy about goblins is the sense of community. You know, when you play a game that has goblins in it, or you watch a movie or show that has goblins in it, or orcs. I think the term is kind of interchangeable. But the sense of community, they live in these little villages and they work together. Yes, they are cutthroat, and yes, they do kill each other. They kill each other and they struggle and they vie for power. But at the end of the day, they live in villages. It's not like these big ogres that, live under bridges, or trolls, or whatever, whichever one that was. you know, Goblins have a very, very respectable sense of community, opposed to other things. Now, as far as the modern depiction of goblins, I actually quite enjoy it. I do. There's two kinds. You have like the scary kind of goblins, the ones that come to your village in the middle of the night and abduct your children, and they deal with like gold and mining, and they have sharp teeth and they eat people. And then you have like the Clash Royale goblins, or like the Clash of Clans goblins, that they're just looking for loot. That's it. They're just looking for loot, you know? Now, I want to talk about the scary goblins, because I really like the modern depiction of like scary goblins. You have they're usually pretty short, green men. So they have green skin, not like super bright green, not super dark green, but just like a nice green skin tone. And usually they're wearing like a loincloth, or like some kind of like fashion pants, no shirt. Sometimes they have shoes, sometimes they don't. But the ears are iconic. You have pointy ears. Ears are important when it comes to creatures. Anybody can identify Shrek just looking at his ears. They're iconic. And goblin ears are kind of the same way. They're pointy, but not like a humanoid pointy, like an elf. They are pointy in their own way, long and pointy, which really distincts, it has this distinction, goblins. Goblins have a lot of distinction opposed to other, you know, mythological creatures. And, the mining. Goblins are hard workers. When they were first created in early European society, they were really heavily associated with the mines, with mining. And then ultimately that transformed into like gold, wealth, like they're greedy. But I don't know if I would necessarily call, yes, goblins are greedy, but they're incredibly hardworking. That's the thing. Yes, they are greedy, but they work hard. They're not greedy and lazy. That's the worst kind. But greedy and hardworking, that is really, really commendable for the goblins as people, or goblins, or whatever you want to call them. This is really weird. I am commending goblins right now. That's really weird. Goblins aren't real, at least not that I know of. And now I'm not saying they should be, but they're not. You know, maybe they should be. I don't know. I feel like if we had goblins and we were able to control them, we could, use them to mine like lithium for Tesla batteries or something. Maybe they would enjoy it. Maybe we could just pay them, like a couple gold coins, and then they could mine lithium for us for Tesla batteries or just lithium ion, whatever we need it for. But let me know your thoughts. Let me know if that's a good business proposition. If we should get people in the labs started working on making real goblins as soon as possible. So let me know. I appreciate you listening to this, and I will see you tomorrow.